So welcome everybody to the session that starts with education, and what I would like to talk to you about is Geo4all. And Geo4all is an initiative that's associated with Open Source Geospatial Foundation, and it focuses on education and research. It really focuses on the connecting the open source geospatial with the academic community. So in my presentation, I will talk about how it works and how it is possible to join the organization or the initiative. So who we are, who is involved in Geo4all. It is a global network of academic research and education laboratories. The big group is really the units that are at different universities all over the world on all continents. And in addition to these academic units, we also have government and industry partners. And I will talk about these different types of membership later on. Now, what is the mission of this initiative? In short, it is making the geospatial education and opportunities accessible to all. That means that we are trying to create the infrastructure and to create the resources for everybody to be able to do geospatial research, education, decision making, everywhere where we need the geospatial information. So we are trying to build the global open access teaching and research infrastructure. So that means that the organization is working not only with the open source software, but also focusing on open data, but also stressing the necessity of open access to the educational material. So you don't need to be registered at the university to actually look at the material or to work with the material that we are producing. All of the materials are available free and open on the internet. And our goal is also to establish collaborations between academia and industry and government institutions. For example, many government agencies, as we have heard, are very interested in open source. They are also very interested in getting people educated or students educated in open source. So we are making these connections so that we can coordinate the preparation, essentially, of future workforce for government and industry. So how does it start? These are popular photos that we keep showing. The entire initiative was founded in 2011 when Suchit Anand, I will show him later, has initiated as a head of ICA Commission of Open Source. He has put together a memorandum of understanding between OSGeo and International Cartographic Association. So I find it very interesting that the initiative actually came from cartography, from this association. So you can see the first president of ICA and OSGeo. That's the first version of the MOU, and we have it set up so that it's renewed and revised every year. We look at it, and if it needs updates, then we do updated MOU. So that was done in 2014. So that's how it started, but it has generated an incredible amount of interest. Our initial idea was to create one lab on each continent, and then from those labs reach out to other places, and I will show you how what actually happened. In addition to ICA, by 2014, we have grown so fast that ISPRS was interested in joining the initiative. So the Memorandum of Understanding was signed in 2014 with ISPRS. And in May, we will be signing Memorandum of Understanding with UCGIS. So there are more and more organizations that are interested in joining and supporting this initiative. So this is how the map of the labs looked like in 2012, and this is essentially how our initial idea looked like, that we would have these labs on each continent. There, Australia was missing, but we had people writing us, connecting with us, and this is what we had in 2016. So there was enormous interest. It has grown a little bit out of control, so it was hard to keep track of everything. But I think we are now pretty well organized. We are spread all over the world, and there is a lot going on, a lot of initiative, enthusiasm for working within this initiative. So how is it organized? As I said, we were really catching up with the organization. We are still not very formal. It's still quite informal, but we have global chair, that is Suchit Anand, who I consider a founder of the entire movement. Then, because of the rapid growth, we had to set up regional chairs for each continent, and these regional chairs are contact persons for new members. So if you are interested in joining, you essentially contact the regional chair, and those regional chairs are online. I will talk about it later and give you all the links, and they will work with you and tell you how to join. Then we also have advisory board. The advisory board includes the presidents of OSGeo, ICA, and ISPRS, and several academic leaders from leading universities, but also from smaller places, so that there is a good diversity. And of course, then there is over 100 lab directors who are the members of the organization. One place where to learn more about the organization and what is going on, there is a wonderful newsletter that is produced by Nikos Lambrinos from Greece, and it summarizes each month what has happened and what is going on. So they have monthly highlights of activities. They also talk about Lab of the Month, so you can see the diversity of places that is participating. They provide overview of events, conferences, webinars, workshops. You can imagine that if you have 100 labs, that there is always something going on. There is also a lot of effort to coordinate funding initiatives, scholarships, and exchange programs between the labs. And then there is ideas and social contributions. So if you don't want to go through all the website or through the email list, you can just look at some of these newsletters and very quickly get a good idea about what the organization is all about and what is happening. Now, as I mentioned, our main focus is education and research, and among those, we are really working pretty hard on developing open access, shared educational material based on FOSS4G. And here, what we try to stress that although a lot of the material that is being developed is based on, let's say, QGIS or GRASS or some well-known, widely used projects that are under OSGeo umbrella, it is not really limited to OSGeo, official OSGeo projects. There are many materials that are based on smaller projects or some very focused tools. And you will see that even among the labs, some of the labs are developing their own tools, or they are very strong, let's say, in R, or some other open source software that is geospatial. Very important thing about the development of the educational material, that it is open access and shared. So again, you don't need to be registered or you don't need to pay a fee to get access to that material. We are also trying to use some version control systems such as GitHub to start working and reusing the material. There are some really great examples like Geo Academy. I hope that Kurt will talk about it a little bit in your talk. Are you going to mention it? Yeah. So there is also a book coming out that is associated with that effort. So that's a really good example of effort that is really well structured and has a lot of resources. So that's in terms of education. Then in many of the labs, there are students and even faculty who are part of the open source geospatial software project. So they also contribute either software or open data, or very often some add-ons or extensions to the software. It is not necessary to be developer, to be part of Geo4all, but there are few labs that are really leaders in this area. And we also participate in community sprints. They are usually associated with the conferences, so there will be a sprint along with this conference. I'm pretty sure that my students will go and participate. So that's another activity that is associated with research and education. One thing what we were not able to do yet is to create a common platform for development of educational material, so that where you would have a certain template and you would just use the tools to do that. We have found that everybody wants to have their own. So, but it's not such a huge obstacle. What you can see, what people are actually using to develop the educational material, you can look at the OSGeo educational content inventory. So that's why we call it inventory, because it's really it has a list of material with links to actual material. So when you are looking for let's say how to do some course in QGIS, or maybe a workshop in QGIS, you can go there and see what is available and what kind of environment people are using to prepare this material. We also have a webinar series which is quite popular. There will be actually a webinar tomorrow afternoon on humanitarian methodons for children, presented by people from Technical University Milano for humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. So if you are interested in presenting at this webinar, you can contact Rafael Moreno from UC Denver. So he is organizing these webinars, and there is a lot of interesting contributions there as well. I did webinar like in fall, and we have more coming up almost every month. Now, for the conferences, at the global FOSS4G conferences, we usually are part of organization for academic sessions. So the global conferences are a little bit different than this conference. They have couple sessions that are focused very much on research work that is being done in academia, and those presentations also have papers that are published either in peer-reviewed journal or some special issue journal. So we organize those, we do the peer review of the contributed papers, and to give students and also faculty opportunity to present at the open source conference. We also organize or contribute to open geospatial sessions at major scientific conferences. So, for example, this summer we have ISPRS conference, that is International Society for Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing. There will be 2 sessions that are focused on open source, where we are co-organizing these sessions. At AGU, I have done invited talks at AGU on open source many times over the past couple of years. At EGU, they have town hall meetings. So we tried to be visible at the big scientific conferences as well. And recently, OSGeo, ICA, and ISPRS have established Best Student Paper Awards that are being now awarded at the FOSS4G conferences. Now, as I said, like with so many labs, there are many ideas about how to collaborate. So people started to form the groups that are focused on certain themes for certain topics. So one is smart cities. So there is initiative to build the tools and to collaborate on open cities. Then agri-GIS, citizen science is another big topic where some of these laboratories have quite interesting programs. NC State actually has a program in citizen science as well. And then also K through 12 education. Another very nice activity is the NASA Whirlwind Europe Challenge, and where it is a competition on preparing applications for using Whirlwind. And they have some, like, what was really interesting, it's Europe, it's organized from Europe, but last year most of the winners were from United States, and the first place was actually high school students from Alaska. So it was very interesting. They worked actually with Trillium Learning company that worked with these high school students. And what they did an application for monitoring seismic hazards. So pretty sophisticated application, very nice visualization. And this weird thing here, that's the crystal ball that they get from NASA as a first prize. So another thing, pretty important one that produced a lot of great results is Google Summer of Code. OSGeo serves as an umbrella organization for OSGeo projects, so that the projects themselves that are relatively small don't have to compete with Apache Foundation or some of these very big projects. And that helped us to really be part of Google Summer of Code every year. So that's quite an achievement, because they rotate the organization. About 30% organizations is not funded each time, so they rotate them. So we were able, because we are under OSGeo umbrella, we are pretty big, we were able to stay there since the Google Summer of Code started. This year we have 22 students accepted in several projects. It's usually between 1 to 4 students per project, depending on how well the projects are organized. And what we have also started to do, we invite smaller projects who would like to be part of Google Summer of Code and would have hard time to handle it themselves, to be part of OSGeo. So that also highlights the inclusive nature of OSGeo Foundation. You can learn more. Again, there is a link to Google Summer of Code 2016 ideas, but that wiki page also has links to the previous years. So you can see what the students were doing the previous years and what were the projects. So here I'm showing a very specific example that shows the benefits of collaboration between Geo4all laboratories and Google Summer of Code. And some of you have already met Anna at this conference where she presented the workshop on Monday with tangible landscape. So she actually started. I got to know her through Google Summer of Code and through our sister laboratory in Prague. So Prague, the Czech Technical University in Prague has also the one of these laboratories. So I worked with her on getting our GRASS visualization program working back in the new graphical user interface. So she has done some pretty amazing work that some people told me can't be done, and she was able to make it work. Now she is a PhD student at our laboratory. So what I want to highlight by this is a really good way how to find the really good students and work with them before they actually come, before you get them into your program. And she has become lead developer of the tangible landscape in our laboratory. In 2014, she was again Google Summer of Code student. She did three-dimensional flow lines for GRASS, again a very sophisticated application. And this year, I believe she's a mentor. Vasek, is that true? Yes, yes. So this is essentially even the vision that OSGeo and Google has, how you are growing the professionals and people who are passionate about open source, but who are also technically really good, and they are able to contribute the cutting edge development. So with this, I will talk a little bit about our program. This little animation, again, that's done with tools that Anna has developed. We have the OSGeo Research and Education Laboratory, which actually functions within our Center for Geospatial Analytics. And within that laboratory, we focus on course development using geospatial free and open source tools. So we have a big program that using ESRI software. But through this laboratory, we are trying to incorporate more open source. So we have courses where the open source is now really very well established. I have been teaching with open source since 2008, so it's pretty stable, pretty sustainable program. And we have, I will talk about those courses later on. We also have a number of research projects. Of course, in research projects, you can see all over the world that people are using open source much more than what they are actually teaching with. We also, I was very fortunate that with Anna and Vasek, who came from the Czech Technical University, that they have the skills to actually actively participate in OSGeo projects, and I am just hoping that they are this new generation that after we retire, we will get the people who can carry on the development, but not only the development, but also the leadership. So here is a little bit about the course material. As I mentioned, we have it freely and openly available online. There is a link where you can find all the courses. We have courses there and workshops available. So, for example, the workshop about tangible landscape that we had on Monday, it's available online through this website, and then it points to the wiki essentially on the OSGeo wiki. We manage our courses, our course material, and our workshop material in GitHub, so that we have revision control, so that we can collaborate on it, so that I can work with them. Essentially, if I mess up something, they can they can fix it. Then the actual format, we have the courses in HTML, written in HTML, so that I can type. I don't have to do the graphical user interface for everything. And it's under Creative Commons license. And it is also registered in this OSGeo educational content inventory. So if you go to that inventory, you will find lots of different courses there, and some of our courses would be there as well. And as I mentioned, we also do research. So here is the example of tangible landscape. If you have been on the Monday's workshop, or yesterday we had a talk about the tangible landscape. That's one of the research where we are looking at different types of interfaces for the GIS, where you, instead of communicating with your data through the mouse and through the computer screen, you are working with your data through these three-dimensional models that are from a moldable sand. This is a little video, let's see, that shows how that system works for a specific application. Let me run it. Oops. Okay, it runs now. So essentially what you have here in the middle is a three-dimensional model based on LiDAR data that is created from sand. So we can make changes there. And then we run a fire simulation model, and we are trying to remove some trees to create a fire break so that we can slow down the fire. So then the model is scanned, it detects that change that we have removed, that we have created the fire break, and then the model runs again. You can see the road slows it down a little bit, then it hits the brake, it slows down, it stops, but then it jumps along this edge and spreads further. But it is slowed down, and you can explore within that environment, like different locations, different widths of the fire break, just by working with that sand model instead of editing the data in the GIS. Mm-hmm. I will let it run once more time. Okay. All right. So you project the layer, because it's connected to GIS, you can project your GIS data. So the green color shows what the land cover is there. Then she indicates the break, and then it can be rerun. It also shows that you can combine the data for which you already have the 3D model with the data that are outside that region. So you can run for a much larger region than for what you have the model. Mm-hmm. Let me get out of it. Okay. So now, where can you find more information about the organization? There is a website, Geo4all, and there is also a mailing list. I usually recommend the global list. There are also regional lists for people who want to organize or do some initiative based, let's say, only in the United States or only in Europe. Now, the really important part is the wiki, where all the member laboratories are listed along with their location, their coordinates, but also with the links to their website and with the work that they are doing. So you can learn in this table what actually all of these organizations are doing. And I will then show you some of the examples of the laboratories. Now, how do you participate? There are 3 types of participation. One is the members of the global network, and those are the academic laboratories, and it can be just one professor with his students. Then there are partners from industry and government, and then there are international professional organizations, and those are the ones that we do the memoranda of understanding. So if you want to join, you read the criteria on the website. And then you send an email to regional chair. I am one of the 3 regional chairs for the North America, so you are welcome to send email to me. And you describe your open source activities. And then I would send you back an email telling you what to do. And it's usually just register at OSGeo Wiki and add yourself to that table. I can add you to that table as well, but you need to add your activities and your coordinates. That's what I don't do. So for the partners, it's very similar, again, through contacting the regional chair. And I had people to ask me, so what are the benefits of joining Geo4all? And that was actually the question posted on the list. So everybody, you know, like has written all the, you know, like how great it is to be OSGeo, like to work with open source and what the benefits are. And then I thought like, oh, you're asking the wrong question. You should really ask, how can I contribute? Because you are not paying any fees or anything. And what we are really all about is really to create this infrastructure and to help other people to be empowered by GIS. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I can give you more details. Yes.
So I saw you modeling fire breaks. Have y'all done any modeling with flooding?
With flooding, yes. So what we were showing, for example, at the workshop with Tangible Landscape, we did both storm surge flooding, but we also did the overland, surface overland flow. So yeah, it's actually that was the original application, was really flooding. Mm-hmm. Yes, any other questions? And as I said, like you can just send me an email if you would like to join. We would like to see more members from the United States. Mm-hmm.